What's up, guys? Thank you guys for being with us today on the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. We have Nick Koumalatsos.
Koumalatsos.
Yeah, I'm saying his name terribly. It's Greek. And I'm a stupid slack-jawed hillbilly from Kentucky, so you'll have to excuse me.
All right.
Yeah.
Not to say that. But...
I don't have to, but that's what I'm going to say for this time.
Okay. All right.
But we talked to him. He is we'll get into it more in just a second, but he is a guy that we met through Matt, who runs Epic Roll, who is a sponsor of the podcast, and he's been doing jiu-jitsu for about 3 years, but he's got a really interesting background in other areas, and so he's still got the jiu-jitsu connection, and he'll talk about it. He was mistaken as me a couple times, but we wanted to chat with him. It seemed like an interesting guy. We had a great conversation. A little bit there's a little jiu-jitsu in there, and a lot of it is, to me, I think it's mostly universal stuff as far as self-improvement. So if it's self-improvement something that you're interested in, I think it's some good stuff, and hearing from stories from people that the stuff that they've gone through, the stuff that they've overcome. I always enjoy that. I always enjoy hearing from that and being able to talk with someone about that. Again, if that's something you enjoy, then you're going to enjoy this podcast. As always, thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. Charlotte's Web. You can check them out at charlottesweb.com. They're a CBD company. Again, I don't know if you guys know this, but CBD is an unregulated thing still to this day. And so if you get a bottle of CBD, or if you get a gummy, or if you get some CBD product, what's on the label may or may not actually have what's actually in there. You have no clue. And they don't, it's not regulated, so they don't even have to be all that honest with it. And there were some studies that came out where they did some third-party testing of different companies and seeing what was in their stuff. And they found in a lot of cases, stuff was very off, whether there was too much or too little or none of anything that they said that was supposed to be in there. One of the cool things, and one of the reasons why I feel confident with sharing Charlotte's Web's products, is that they're third-party tested. They have an independent company test out their stuff and make sure that what's in the bottle or what's in the gummy is what's actually in there, so that this way you can actually depend upon it. Because again, it's a supplement, and it has a lot of interesting effects on the body, like for me that I really enjoy, that helps me out with recovery. And so it's something I put into my body, and I want to make sure that that's it's easy to replicate. If I'm getting a varied dosage, I have no clue, right? This is the same thing for me, I'm anal about this kind of stuff, where I will measure out my coffee in the morning, because coffee's a drug. And if I start to feel it, I'm feeling pretty good today on that particular dose, then I want to replicate that dose, because maybe I give myself too much, I'm too jittery, maybe not enough, and I don't feel good. There's my dosage. And so I kind of do the same thing with CBD. And this is why I tell people, if you're going to do this Charlotte's Web stuff, if you're going to try it out, I encourage you to try out for a month and play around with the dosage a little bit. Usually you want to start on the lower end and then kind of work your way up. A really good tincture, if you're interested in trying it out, is the 17 milligrams per dose. It's a very light dose, but again, usually it does the trick. For me, that's what I started doing a couple of years ago, and it's pretty much still what I do to this day. So again, if you guys want to check it out, you can go to their website at charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. And again, try it out for yourself. See what kind of effects you have with it, because everybody responds to different things, supplements and stuff like that differently. And but I think it's a really good company, and that's why we share them on the podcast with you guys. Another good company is Epic Roll. Epic Roll is a jiu-jitsu brand, gear, merchandise, apparel company. They make everything. And again, it's one of those things where it's a jiu-jitsu practitioner, a jiu-jitsu black belt who makes gear for jiu-jitsu practitioners, which I like. I'm not necessarily a fan of jiu-jitsu companies, and there are some, you'd be surprised, that basically make gear and apparel for jiu-jitsu people, but really aren't in the jiu-jitsu. They're not a part of the jiu-jitsu lifestyle themselves, which is strange to me, but it happens sometimes. People find, they get on the internet and they look for little ways to here's a way I can create some random business and take some money from these people. Yeah. I like supporting jiu-jitsu people, so I like his company. And Matt has a lot of really cool designs on his stuff, and that was actually to kind of give you an idea of how Matt and the partnership started. Originally, Matt just sent me some stuff. He was like, just here, man. He goes, he even sent me this it was like a little Wookiee USB drive. and I watched it. Like, again, someone was like, some guy was telling me that's a bad idea. You shouldn't have put that in your computer. I was like, man, like there was this whole package of handwritten letter. I was like, if the dude was going to do all that, and I put it into an old computer that we had at the gym. I was like, if he did that and he wanted whatever, like you got me, bro. But I watched the video and stuff like that. And basically he was like, look, man, here's some stuff. Try it on if you like it. Great. I would love to work something out. If not, man, enjoy it as a gift.
Yeah.
And I loved his shirts. I loved the designs that he had on. Everything was nice and like simple, for the most part, which I like. I don't like to give you an idea. I like when I wear like clothing, I don't like clothing with all kinds of crap all over it. Like when the whole what was it that stuff, like the Ed Hardy and the Affliction stuff. I hated all that stuff. I never liked it. I was like, it's so gaudy. Like Eugene and I were hanging out. I was like, Eugene, why are you wearing that stuff?
Why do you have rhinestones on your jeans?
Why do you have rhinestones? Like, why do you have like a lion raping a giraffe on a skateboard on your shirt? It's so strange.
Because it reflects my, I don't know. I don't know. I just, everyone was doing it, so I did it.
Eugene's a little sensitive about his affliction
No,
days.
man, I love the, man. I was like, it was actually, honestly, like, it was really cool. Like, you see the fighters wearing it, and you're like, oh, yeah,
of course, they're walkout shirts.
You have a connection to the fighters there, and initially, it was kind of like not a lot of people knew about it, right? Yeah. So it was actually a little bit, and UFC was a little bit fringe at that time as well. So it's kind of like wearing a tap out shirt, right? Eventually, you wear a tap out shirt, and you're like, look at this douche, But like,
there was a time.
For a time, man, you had like. Tap out was like, oh, I know, what's up.
Yeah, like when I was in high school, I remember I bought like a tap out shirt, and then they sent me a sticker in the mail, and I put the sticker on my wrestling bag.
Yeah.
And I remember I would wear that stuff at wrestling tournaments, and a handful of people from other schools would be like, "Oh man, you watch UFC?" We would like talk about it.
Yep.
But that said, I never got into the affliction thing like Eugene did, and I like more simple stuff. And I like Matt's designs; they're clean, and I think they look really good. And I encourage you to check him out. Go to his website at epicrollbjj.com. Check out his shirts, check out his gis, his rash guards, everything else. See what he's got in there. If you like something and you'd like to buy it, you can use a promo code Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off the order. It supports the podcast. It supports another Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, and you get a discount on some really cool stuff. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped. Manscaped is the premier men's grooming company. They make products to groom yourself as a man from head to toe, from your beard down to your balls.
You can smell nice.
And you can smell nice. Their deodorant is aluminum free, which is a big deal to me because I don't like to have aluminum. Damn it! I was having trouble with that
aluminium.
Word. Aluminium on my all the people in the UK. It's aluminium. On on my body. It's like, I am one of those people. I don't like wearing anything. Like
I sweat through my shirts because I wear all my stuff is like aluminum free. It's
I've got one that's
deodorant.
Like, I think the one that I use right now, it's got baking soda in it, and it seems to like soak it up. It's like baking soda and like coconut oil.
Yeah.
We made some at one point. It didn't work too well. But anyway, they make a lot of really good stuff. They have sent us, and to let you guys know the process of how we like take on sponsors, because we've turned down more sponsors than we've taken on, primarily because we don't really do technically reads like you guys like normally do, where it's like, use this today and it'll be great, whatever. I don't do that. So my thing is like, I want to actually find a company that actually I like using their stuff. And if I like using your stuff, I'll talk about it. Because if I can't talk about it, I'm just not going to do it.
He's terrible at scripting. Like, if we have to, like, script some stuff, awful. Like, it's like, you're horrible.
Terrible.
But, like, if you just Chewy, let it rip, and that's perfect.
But also, think about this. Here's something to consider. I'm not just an asshole on the internet. I have a whole gym full of people, hundreds of people. Right. And, like, they buy the stuff that, like, some of you guys listening to this are my students. And a lot of you guys have bought stuff that I have pushed through this podcast, right, and talked about in this podcast. And it would be really, really uncomfortable if I was like, oh man, this is so great. Like there was this protein company one time that sent us a sample, and the protein was disgusting. It was awful. Now, if I would have been up here, oh God, it's so good. It's like tastes like cake batter in your mouth. And then one of my students bought that protein. They're going to come to me like, hey, Chew, I got some questions about this damn cake batter.
Oh, I think there was...
Tastes like poop.
There was the bars. They had bars, too. They sent us. And I was like, I felt like I was eating chalk or something.
Oh, it was terrible.
Or sawdust. It's like it takes all the moisture out of your mouth, and you're like, oh
So again, the process that we go through is basically companies, if they want to become a sponsor, they have to send us stuff, and then I will use that stuff.
Yeah, we don't get anything. We don't talk about anything until we try it.
That's right. And and if I like the stuff, yes, it happens. If Eugene likes the stuff, it can become a sponsor. If we don't both agree on it, it doesn't become a sponsor. And so Manscaped sent us some stuff, like what, last year before, something like that.
They've been a sponsor for
about 2 years.
They've been a sponsor for a while.
They sent us a thing, and again, I like the product, and again, that's why I like sharing it with you guys. I really do use their trimmer. People say, hey, Chewy, how do you trim your beard? I trim my beard with the Manscaped trimmer. Again, it was originally designed because it's called the lawnmower. It was originally designed for your balls, but it works great for your face too. So I use that. And then again, they've got all kinds of really cool men's grooming products. So you can check them out for yourself if you're a man or the man in your life. If you want to go to their website and get a discount, you can go to manscaped.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off on the order. Also, if you guys want to join our Patreon and support the podcast directly, you can do so for a very limited time. Eugene and I are going to be doing a fun project coming up. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. For those of you that were in the vault, not the business one, because I have a business membership that I do that's called a vault, but we used to, like back in 2020, I had a Jiu-Jitsu vault membership that I did, and it's going to be similar but different to that. And we're going to do a little bit of something different, but that's probably going to take over the Patreon. Now, for those of you that are Patreon subscribers now, you will get a special discount to join the vault when that opens up. So you'll get a discounted rate as a thank you for being a Patreon member. So again, if you guys want to join the Patreon now to get access to the content that we have in there currently and get a discount to the vault when we release it coming up this year, you can do that. If not, no big deal. But in case you are interested in joining the Patreon, we have a clip from every guest that we've ever had on the podcast gets put back there, and we have one with Nick where we talk about some.
We talk about, there's some like cool stuff before the podcast. We're gonna put in the pre-podcast, like our conversation, pretty interesting, kind of behind the scenes, and then after we get into some interesting topics.
The ending stuff is a bunch of like 37 to 40-year-old like business owner guys talking to each other about what really grinds their gears. But again, it is interesting to hear because again, it goes to getting in, as I talk about this podcast later on, kind of getting to know kind of who people are. But if you guys want to check that out, along with, there's tons of content. There's like, I've talked about this numerous times on the podcast.
So much.
Hundreds of pieces of content from podcasts to videos to everything else. You can check it out at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Also, guys, if you want to get my newsletter, you can do so by joining the Chew Crew. You can do so by going to jiujitsu.net/join, CHEWJITSU.net/JOIN. So spelled it out for you, just in case you didn't get it.
Spelling stuff.
It is a bell. But you can check it out. I send a daily email out, which has tips and everything else. And just a warning for any of you guys. When I do those emails, I tell you and give you a tip on something that I think might be useful, an idea, or something that I think could be useful to your game. And I will offer from time to time. I'll offer things that I have for sale, like products and camps and t-shirts or whatever I've got going on. The Chew Crew, those people get first dibs on everything that I am. Like, for instance, like all my camps, everything else, they get first crack at everything. And so again, just a heads up, right? So if like people like giving you information and making a living for themselves, that makes you feel bad, or if that makes you angry, I wouldn't subscribe. But if you'd like to join the other 40,000 people that are there, join it by going to jiujitsu.net/join, and I will send you 3 free ebooks for joining up, and you can keep the free ebooks and you can unsubscribe at any time you want. So guys, with that said, let's get into the podcast and chat with Nick.
Where we first found out about you was through actually Matt from Epic Roll.
Yeah.
So how did you guys get to know each other? How did you all meet each other?
So my wife bought me the neon belly shirt.
Uh-huh.
Nice. And I didn't really know anything about it. She just bought it for me. And anyways, I started wearing it, and I wore it on a podcast. And I guess his brother sent him the podcast link. It was like, dude, this dude's wearing your shirt.
Oh, cool.
And then he reached out from there and was like, cool, man. And then we just became friends. But actually, it's not my first connection with you guys. Actually, specifically with you, Nick.
Nick? Who's that guy?
So I would go around, and I obviously have a YouTube channel. I have a cameraman.
Sure.
And they would be like, "Are you that Jiu-Jitsu guy?"
That's another bearded white guy with a fade, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do you get? Hold on. Do you Dan Bilzerian? Do you get that ever?
No.
You got that a couple times.
Dude, there was like when everybody thought there was that stint where like everybody thought that was a cool life or whatever. I thought it would look like shit. I was like, I don't want to do that stuff. But when he was kind of popular for a little bit, I'd get it at least like once a month. I'd go out and like someone would say, "You know who you look like?" And I'm like, I know who this is.
Really?
But so you were out and about and you got mistaken for the other bearded YouTube guy.
Yeah, the other bearded white YouTube guy. Yeah.
That's funny, man.
So I was like, I hope you guys don't think that, because my performance on the mat is not going to be great. So it's going to be super embarrassing for him if you think that I'm him.
What belt are you right now?
I'm blue.
Okay, yeah. So like, if you were like a white belt, and they're like, "Man, I was expecting like maybe it's Nogi. They don't know. I was expecting more from him, man. Like I totally tapped that jiu-jitsu guy out."
I would do it. I would just go
Hopefully
around
somebody's
doing that.
out there saying that, like, he ain't that good. I totally beat his ass. You know?
Yeah. So is that how you first learned about? Did you know who Chewy was when, or is that kind of
No, that's how I found out. I was like, I gotta go figure out. So I started following you on Instagram, and I was like, I'm like, who? Because it happened multiple times.
That's funny.
We were traveling down to Florida, and I like to travel and go to different gyms because you always learn.
Yeah,
something.
of course.
And then I come back and beat my people up on it. But yeah, it's happened multiple times. So I found you on Instagram, and I was like, oh, cool. And then it just the whole full circle. Through Matt, the whole circle kind of got connected, and I was like, "Oh, wow, you're just kind of connected to everybody."
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like the jiu-jitsu space, in some level, is like it's not small anymore. I mean, there's a lot of people doing it, but at the same time, there is kind of a bit of a small sort of thing to it. Like it's still a kind of a close-knit community.
Yeah.
Because it never fails that like people that I have connections with that are seemingly disconnected will somehow end up meeting or something. It never fails.
And I'm really blessed because I've done well in business, because I have several organizations, I do a podcast, I am very public in the media. When I started jiu-jitsu, 3 years ago, once people started realizing that it wasn't something I was quitting, my business and success there, and then the media side kind of connected with jiu-jitsu, and I'm very fortunate to be able to communicate with guys like yourself and have some of these different opportunities that probably normal people wouldn't have.
So what got you into it 3 years ago?
Oh man, you've probably heard this story a million times. From other people, but basically I had done very well in my life. I felt very successful. I've built a 7-figure business, sold multiple businesses, and I've been in special operations. I've done some pretty amazing hard things, and I feel like growth happens on the fringe. Growth happens when you're uncomfortable. And I don't have a lot of friends. I can count on one hand how many like close friends I have. I keep my circle very small. I keep my business, circle very small as well. So I was kind of comfortable, man. There wasn't a whole lot of unknown in my life. Everything was very controlled. And I just felt that kind of itchy feeling like I'm too comfortable. I'm not challenging myself. I need something personal for me to where I don't know it all. I need to go into something as the beginner again. You know what I mean? And my brother-in-law does jiu-jitsu. He's like a lifetime wrestler, and then started jiu-jitsu 6 years ago. And I've had a bunch of friends. I had a teammate of mine when I was in special operations. He's a brown belt, I believe. And so we would roll, and he's probably 50, 60 pounds lighter than me. And I couldn't get my hands on him. I couldn't, you know the deal. Like
It's the magic trick. Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell is going on, dude? Like I was worn out, and he's like, are you done yet? And he literally was not doing anything. And so it was intriguing to that part of it was very intriguing. So basically, once I hit this, I rent to this gym, and it's a beautiful story for me, because I go to this gym at night. There's these guys training. I come in, I'm like, hey, what do I need? I would like to come in for, a class or whatever you want to call it. And he goes, yeah. Here's the class schedule. And I'm like, okay, I'm an early guy. So 5:45 in the morning. Got it. Mm-hmm. All right. So I'll show up. So I get up super early. I go drive this thing. I don't have anything. I have no gi. I don't have anything. I'm just showing up. And I'm sitting out in my truck, and I'm thinking, here I am. I think I was 37 at the time. Here I am, 37 years old, and I'm up at 5 in the morning to go essentially get my ass kicked. Walk into a room. I didn't know one single person there, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like your first day of school, and you know that at 3 o'clock in the parking lot, you're getting your ass kicked. Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it. This is happening. You're the new kid in school. You got to deal with this. And so it was an interesting feeling sitting in my truck going, I am making the choice at 37 years old to walk in here and just get the shit kicked out of me, not knowing anything. And that's exactly what happened. The typical, and I walked in at 240. I was 240 pounds, 6 foot tall, 240 pounds. And, big weightlifter, that's all I cared about, how much weight I could move around, mm-hmm. How fast I could move it. And then, the whole blue belt enforcer thing, they just smashed me for a complete hour. I mean, horribly, like I thought that they might've known me through social media and just did not like me. Yeah. So they wanted to take out their aggression on me physically. Come to find out, they had absolutely no idea who they were. That's just how they are, and it's still who they are to this day. They just can't pull those shenanigans anymore. But anyway, I did it. I showed up. It was horrible, and then I just kept going, and I absolutely loved it. And it was just one of those things that was like, now instead of being the CEO or being the dad or being the husband, I am now a beginner again at something. And that was super refreshing for me. I found something that I was like, I don't know shit about anything. What did Ruth say? I don't know shit about fuck. And and essentially, like, they gave me the opportunity to grow, and it's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think about that like a lot. Like there's this weird thing that I think a lot of us who have like done something, accomplished something in our lives that was really difficult to do, you kind of learn how to go against like your own like human nature a bit. Yeah. Like for instance, like with diet, we'll say as an example, like you might have all these like really delicious foods around you, but then you don't eat them because you know that they're going to make you fat, and you eat the stuff that you should eat. And, because you know that the payoff's going to be better in the long run. And then doing difficult stuff, like you said, you're getting up at, in the morning, crack of dawn, whatever, and you're going to this gym to train, and you know that you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. You're like, well, what am I doing this for? But like, there's this implicit sort of like thing inside of you that understands, like, if I put myself into difficult stuff, good stuff typically comes from it, right? Right. And so I think that's interesting, because that's something that most people, like, it's something you have to, just like going back to the idea of running towards bullets, right? Well, we're not running towards bullets, but we're running towards difficult stuff. And I think it's something that you sort of condition yourself to do one way or the other, because we know that that's where like the good stuff happens, the growth happens, whether we're lifting weights and we're getting to that rep range where it starts to burn and starts to push it, or we're putting ourselves in some new endeavor. We're going like against our nature because our body doesn't really want to do it, but we do it anyway. And I think that's a cool thing that I see that a lot of people who have done some cool stuff in their life, it's something that they initially do in some place, and then they seek out other places where they can continue to do that.
I think that's an inherent trait of somebody that wants to grow, right? And growth is a choice, growth in a sport, growth in your knowledge, whatever it may be, but it's a choice that you have to make every single day. When you stop making that choice, you basically have peaked, and you've limited yourself of where you're going to be as a human being. Mm-hmm. And I just choose never to peak, ever.
Now, do you think that kind of thing, like that idea, that trait that you're talking about, do you think that's something that people just sort of, you got it or you don't, or do you think it's something you've learned through going through difficult stuff and popping out on the other side?
I 100% believe that it's something you learn going through difficult stuff, because once you get the reward of achievement of going through a challenge or doing something hard and then coming out the other side, it's apparently obvious the growth and success that comes from that, and how much more people always talk to me about, like, well, how do I mentally get tough? Well, you mentally get tough by doing hard things and getting through them. And then that's not hard anymore. And then one of the things that I like to bring up is, people ask me, okay, young guys to young men, typically ask me, what was harder, this or this in the military? And I'm like, that's a very one-dimensional way of looking at it. You're looking at it from a linear standpoint, and it's not linear, it's horizontal. So when you join the military, and I'll speak specifically to the Marine Corps. When you join the military, the Marine Corps recruit training, the basic level entry for the Marine Corps, is the hardest of all branches. And at that point in your life, that might be the hardest thing that you've ever done. But then when you go through, so I took selection to go to Recon Indoctrination Platoon. So basically it was the pre-training to go to basic reconnaissance school to become a Force Recon Marine. All right. That was extremely physically and mentally tougher than recruit training. But if recruit training was the hardest thing I ever did and I stopped there, that would be the hardest thing. But then I did another hard thing. Now looking back at recruit training, it's a joke. And then I go on to go to basic reconnaissance school. And then I go to some other schools. And then I go take selection for special operations. So it's a level game. And each one of these times that I do something more difficult, the one before it, I look at and laugh. So it's a complete perception based off of your individual growth.
Did you, as far as going into the military, is that something that was a family thing? Is that something that just, as a young man, you kind of were just intrigued by? What kind of influence did you have as a young person growing up that kind of brought you in that direction?
So my mom's father, my grandfather on my mom's side, was a Korean War draftee. He was drafted in the Korean War, did a tour there, and then ended up doing 2 tours in Vietnam as a paratrooper. He was with 101st and the 82nd Airborne. Obviously, he was retired, before I was born, and he did 22 years in the Army. And so that was always I always thought that was a cool thing, even though he never talked about it. A lot of the stuff we found out, like his Bronze Star and what happened to his platoon and what happened, his actions in Vietnam, we didn't find out until he was actually passed away. I did a records request through Kansas City, got all his records. He had a Bronze Star with a V. And anyways, it was a pretty amazing story. His whole platoon was ambushed and he saved a bunch of people. He was like one of the only guys that, kind of like the Forrest Gump scene. Yeah. It was kind of a situation like that, and never said a word about it. But I read all about it. Anyways, so it was that. But honestly, it wasn't, I don't know if that had such a big impact as it did. I mean, obviously it was an impact, but for me, it was an out. I grew up in Florida, and I kind of peaked. I wouldn't say peaked, but I had a very good job. I was 17 years old, living in a beach house in Panama City Beach, Florida. I was making like thousands of dollars of cash a week working at the Bay Point Marriott. And this was even earlier than that, I think, because I was going into the 11th grade. So I never went back to the 11th grade. I graduated 10th grade, and that was it. I never went back to school. And I worked this job, and I'm making like anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 cash a week in my pocket as like 16, 17-year-old. And after, so many months of doing that, it kind of hit me. I kind of paused and realized that, holy shit, man, this might be like my life for the next 20 years. Like I could just keep doing this for as long as I kind of want, And
what were you doing at the time? Sorry to interrupt.
Like the jobs.
Yeah, like the jobs where you're making this money, because that's pretty good money for a young kid.
Yeah,
Great money.
I had nothing to show for it afterwards either.
Well, of course, easy come, easy go, and you're like 18 years old or whatever, you don't know what you're doing. It's like you're gonna buy like a. Did you buy a motorcycle?
I didn't buy a motorcycle.
Okay.
I didn't, but I don't know what I bought, honestly. But I didn't have anything to show for it.
Okay.
I lived good though. But anyways, from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., I was a audio visual tech for the conference center there.
Okay.
So I was setting up lights and microphones and projectors and all that kind of stuff. $15 an hour there. Then I would take a 30-minute break. I would go have a club sandwich and some fries at the resort thing right there, like clockwork every time. 2:30 to 10 p.m. I was working as a bellman at the Bay Point Marriott. Cash tips, very high-end stuff. I mean, you're talking about $100 tips to go park a car. Somebody would give you $100 bill.
Oh wow.
And this was in the 90s. So that was the job. I worked from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. 5-6 days a week. That was it. And I was just like, damn, man. Like, I just kind of panicked. I was like, this can't be it. Like, I need more challenges, more adventures in my life. And I grew up with my mom. Literally every 6 months growing up, we moved. I was in a different school every 6 months. And so I was kind of used to that lifestyle of kind of on the go and adventure. And it just kind of stagnated. And I kind of panicked and saw that this was going to be my life. Like, granted, I would have leveled up and who knows what I could have done in the hotel and making $250, $300 a year. But I was like, I'm still going to be right here doing the same shit. So I did I hit the nuclear option, where I just nuked everything, man. I quit the job. I left the house. I moved in so that's when I went and asked him about the joining the military, and the recruiter laughed at me. He laughed me out of the office. He's like, you're never joining the military, ever.
What year was this?
This would have been in 98, maybe.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, it's like, man, like, seems like now it'd be, of course they take you in, but I mean, even like, you start getting the early 2000s, they just snatch you up in a heartbeat.
Nope.
So late 90s. Okay.
Late 90s. They said, nah, man, not a chance. Here's the reason why. You're a 2-time convicted felon. You've got a GED. Your ASVAB scores are garbage. You've got drug involvement, gang involvement, a host of misdemeanors. Like, never going to happen, Holmes. And you're right. It was Clinton area. They were like drawing down on the military. And that was the worst thing. I mean, that was the best and worst thing he ever could have said. Because once he told me no, that became my full mission to prove him wrong and to do what I wanted to do. So it sent me on almost a 2-year journey of getting in the military. And that's why I nuked my life. I threw it all away, man. I went through it all away. I moved in with my grandmother for free. I got a part-time job as a projectionist. And I think minimum wage back then was like $4.50 an hour. So I went from making like thousands a week. And I remember getting my first check and it was like $158. Oh, man. And I was like, what the hell am I even supposed to do with $158? I'm working nights running these movies at a movie theater. Anyways, so what that did was it gave me the opportunity to go to college, get a semester of college. I got over 100 letters of recommendation. I went to the military processing center like 3 times, had to study for the test 3 times because I had to get above a certain score. And I was never really great at school, even though now I have a master's degree and like a 3.8 GPA as an adult. So it's anybody listening about school, if you're a kid, it's complete bullshit. If someone tells you you're not smart, that's complete lies. It's just where you're at as your age.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times you don't understand, like, why am I getting an education? Right. It doesn't make any sense. At least as you get older, there's this because there's a strong thing with incentive structures. They're so much more powerful than, say, like punishment. Right. So like if you're a kid, it's like go to school or you get in trouble, right? Versus, okay, if I go get this degree, there could be a lot more money for me, on the other end of it. Like,
or it's information that you want.
Yeah, that you could possibly use to create a
Yeah.
better life for yourself,
Right.
right? Like, so you could create some security for yourself and your family. There's some incentive there. So if you decide to get into it as an adult, like, you're probably going to be super like focused on it and not just taking
Interested,
it as
actually interested in the
Absolutely.
material. Yeah. It was a very, very big difference. So anyways, I say all that to say, basically, I finally got in. And of course, as life, as my life kind of works, I think it was training day 7. It took me 2 years to get in. I finally got my shot. Day 7, I broke my wrist. And that sent me back. I had to go to a holding platoon. It was a whole thing. I was actually at recruit training for 5.5 months. And then, finally got through, graduated, ended up being number 1 of the whole company. And then my life started, in the military.
So what made you choose the Marines over the rest of the branches?
Hardest at the entry level, it was the hardest thing that I could do.
Okay.
Huh.
It's like being 37 and showing up at jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
At 240 pounds.
What's
the hardest thing I can do?
Where did you develop that kind of that mentality, like to do the most difficult thing?
I'm not really sure. It could be part me, just who I am as a human being. Cause like, I'll say that not all, God, I hope they don't listen to this. Not everyone in my family is like that. There's a lot of people in my family that choose the very easy route,
Sure. Yeah.
That's the path of least resistance. That's usually what appeals to many people.
Well, and that's okay.
Right.
Just like, it's completely okay to choose an easier path.
Correct.
Just don't get upset if someone else like gets ahead of you and you're like, hey, he's got that thing or she's got that thing. Well, yeah, they chose a different path.
Right.
You chose this one. That's okay. Just be satisfied with where you're at.
That's my only thing. If you want to have minimum wage job, minimum wage life, and that's it, and you're super happy,
do it.
Cool.
This is America. Do what you want to do.
Exactly. Right. Good on you, bro. But don't be the person that does that and then complains that you don't have enough money, you don't like where you're at, blah 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 blah. Yeah. Like that's where I have a problem. So for me, it was just I wanted more out of life. I always want more out of life. I feel like I'm never done. I feel like I don't ever want to be the master. I want to be the forever student. And the reason for that is because mentally, I feel like no matter what your age is, you always have something to learn. And as soon as we get to the age to where we think that we know it all, or that we've peaked, or that we feel like we're not teachable anymore, well, then we're kind of done. And I don't want to be that way. I want to be the 90-year-old that is still learning something. And I think that's what's brilliant about this sport and why I've kind of taken to it so well is because there's no end to it. Mm-hmm. It's not something that you like master and you're like, check, done. The most beautiful thing that I've heard out of some of my friends is that when they get promoted to, black belt, and it's like it's something around that time. And you can speak to it but I've had multiple friends that have been promoted to black belt go, I feel like I'm starting over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Black belt. That's what a lot of us say. It starts over because there's no longer a chase for like some belt you don't care about. I mean, most of us don't care about belts anyway, if you get to that point, but then it's like, there is absolutely no pressure to perform as far as your belt goes. So then you're just out, like off into the wilderness where, if you compete, you could compete against someone that's been a black belt for a day or someone that's been a black belt for a decade. You never know, and then you're just there at that point.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? I think that's the never peak, best to yet to come mentality is beautiful to me. And to find something, like that you can do essentially as long as you physically can do it. Until you're old. I mean, what was that? The 72-year-old or 70-something-year-old that just got his black belt. He started when he was 68.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to me.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that I think that as I look for things to master or for things to do, not only is it physical, like for me, as there's also a mental health component as well of doing things that are physical, training your body, training your mind. Depleting your adrenaline, depleting your energy stores so they can be rebuilt, your dopamine, all that kind of stuff is extremely important. And I mean, we can go into this forever, but I think that's what took me to it is finding something that no matter what, there's another level and forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious because you mentioned it sort of in passing earlier, in talking about getting over difficult stuff. That's to, like you said, be a person that owns businesses, has got a master's degree, he got to the military and all this different stuff. It's going to be a big hindrance. What were your felonies that you had at a young age?
So I got involved in a gang.
Yeah.
And we were running basically operations like stealing stuff, and then they were like pawning them off at pawn shops. It was kind of like a small organized crime ring situation. And we basically using kids to get the stuff. So I got hit with that operation, and I didn't talk, and a lot of people did, so they threw the book at me.
Okay.
It was kind of a dirty deal, honestly. I got arrested at school. No parent or guardian was present. I got taken to no lawyer, guardian, nothing. I'm 11 years old, and I got taken to the police station in the interrogation room, interrogated with no adult or guardian, lawyer, anything present, and then sent to juvie.
What'd that do to you? Like, I mean, is that a wake up call? Was that like, well?
Oh no! The first time it happened, I was so hard. I was like, "Nah, man, I'm in. Yeah. I'm doing it. I'm not telling you nothing, and you can do whatever you want to do." Like,
you're 11 years old, bro. You're like, you have no concept of anything that's going on, really.
No, man. I'm like, all I know is I'm tough, and you guys aren't getting anything on me. I mean, highly illegal, but whatever. So it did that, and which is crazy to me is because that would immediately been thrown out. The fact that it went to court and I got what I got is just crazy. That I don't think that would ever happen in these days.
Well, it was like a non-violent thing, right?
Yeah, it was that, and then I was on probation, so that all went through. And then I got pinged with that. Finally, I got out, and then I was on probation. I got kicked out of my school, so I had to go to school, middle school, two districts over. My mom was driving me to this school 2 districts over, and I was kind of cleaning it up, still hanging out with some, maybe not positive people. I was cleaning my life up a little bit. And then I got hit with a weapon on school grounds, which by itself probably wouldn't have been a felony, but because I was on probation, it immediately was, it was a weapon. It was on school grounds, and I was on probation, so it immediately hit a set felony number 2. And then they worked the deal with I don't remember exactly, but they worked the deal that I didn't have to do any more time. But I had to do 2 years of community service.
Okay.
So now I'm 13. So I had to do community service every single day up until the age of 15.
What'd you do for community service?
I worked as basically as a janitor at a church.
Okay.
So I just every day after school, my mom would drive me all the way to this thing, and bless her heart, and I would sweep.
Your poor mother, man.
Oh,
wow.
dude. Oh, it's even worse, man, because she had me and my brother. She's a single mom. She worked 1 or 2 jobs just to support us, and here I am just acting like a complete asshole.
No, I kind of gathered this because I was going to ask this. Like, was your dad? Was he around?
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, I mean, because it's like anytime you hear about this kind of stuff, like it's almost always like it's young men that are searching for, basically you don't have that male influence, so you're searching for a older or some sort of male belonging or male influence, some sort of male generativity, and so you're gonna find it, but it may not be in the right places.
So what it was there was this gang, and there were some older guys there that I looked up to, and that was it, man. And you're looking for a tribe, and you're looking for,
sure.
I mean, men in general, especially young men, need to have a tribe. Like we are tribal people.
Well, that's what we grew up evolutionarily, right? Like we grew up to work together in groups as men to go hunt larger game, and so that's how we're wired, and so we search groups of men to be in groups.
Yeah, our genetic code is wired still to this day. That's what it's meant for.
That's why guys make gangs, because we would have been in a gang of some sort. Just it may have not have been a bad thing, right? It would have been like maybe we were gang hunting buffalo versus people's like merchandise or something.
Right. So that's a good way to put it. I was in merchandise acquisitions.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, because I think that's like, talking about like, I think this is one of the more positive things that's going on, like in like our generation, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on, and there is a lot of, I think sort of to some degree, because I mean, I know it's always so hard to quantify. It's even a taboo topic to talk about, like whether or not one generation is better than the other. But like when you compare what some of the past generations did from say like 1815 to 1915, it's incredible. You know what I mean? From whether you're talking about eradicating diseases and fighting off tyranny, whatever. Like did some amazing stuff. But one of the things I think is really nice that seems to be happening now with men is in our society is there's more of a movement where we're like, hey, listen, if you're a dude, take care of your shit. You make kids, you take care of them. Don't leave them by. Be a strong man and take care of those kids. And I think even I read a statistic. I think it was last year I read this that like there's actually been there's been an actual improvement in like 2-parent homes. It's starting to go back upwards opposed to what it's been doing since like the 60s, just going down into the tubes.
Yeah, and I think a big portion of that is because of the second and third order effects of not having it. Right. Guys like myself that didn't have it and is successful in spite of that. I mean, my whole platform now is make fathers great again. Like I was literally on the phone with a business partner and a friend just right before I jumped on here, and he was talking about a situation where he's like, if I like you or I love you and you're messing up, I'm going to hold you accountable. But for a while, it was like, well, I don't want to offend him. I don't know if it's my place. It's like, no, dude, you're being an asshole. You're cheating on your wife. You're gambling. You're doing all these stupid things. Like, is this the life that you want? Like, if I love you and I care about you, I'm going to call you on it. Not because I'm a dick, because you're being a dick and I actually care about you. So get your shit squared away. Yeah. And I think that because we've had this long decades of trend of fatherless homes, and we see the danger and the repercussions that comes from, it's like you said, now I think there's this pendulum shift to the other direction going, okay, that obviously is not a good thing. It's time for us to get our shit together as men, as a community. If I just look at the last 2 years, if men were united, let's say early 60s before, like they were early 60s before, men in communities and whatnot, would the last 2 years, would the federal government been able to pull off what they did in the last 2 years? I don't think so. Because I think as a country and as a community of men, we would have just been like, no. Because that's not what's good for my business. It's not what's good for my community, my kids, not going to happen. So.
Yeah. And I don't think you would have the same situation where you would like, again, I think that when you look at a lot of bad stuff that's gone on where you see like young males get into trouble and do bad stuff and violent stuff, right? Yeah. I mean, that's a situation where, again, we don't like to consider ourselves, like animals to some degree, but like we're creatures, we're nature, or we're a part of nature, and we're no different. And it's like, for instance, like I was trying to figure out what my cat was doing one time. Cats are, they do their thing, whatever, because like we've got some animals we got at the house and stuff like that, right? So we got the cat, and his tail tells you what's going on, basically. Like if he starts wagging, we think of it as a dog, wag's good. So if my dog comes up to me, he's wagging, I'm like, oh, he's happy to see me. If the cat's doing it, means you better back off because he's getting kind of antsy. He's getting on edge. Whereas if his tail's a little bit more relaxed, whatever. Now, what I'm getting at that is he's a predator, right? Like, so if he's like, he's wired to hunt and to get out there and go get after stuff. And if he doesn't do it, then like if he sits in the house too long, he's going to get pissed off and he starts getting antsy. As men, we have testosterone flowing through our veins. And if we don't, and we're wired to go out and hunt and to do stuff. We have these eyes that center on and find movement because we're wired to hunt. And if we don't go out and do something with that energy, and if it's not directed in a positive way, which typically from a young man standpoint is done by older men to say, here's what you do, here's how to be a man in the society, do this for me. If that doesn't happen, it goes south real fast.
Yeah, it
and
comes
leads
out in
to
the
really
most
bad places.
it comes out in the most gnarliest, sickest ways, right? It's like I love the kind of the German Shepherd analogy is, you can have this like the most awesome, most breed, you can have a freaking $10,000 German Shepherd.
Yeah.
They're great dogs. If they don't have a mission and purpose, they're going to fuck your shit up. They're going to dig holes in your backyard. They're going to eat your couch. They're going to chew through your sheetrock and go through the other. I mean, I have one. He's horrible. One's really good. One's really horrible. And the difference is one was trained, very highly trained. All right. That he had purpose. He had a mission in his life. And the other one's a pet. And as men, we're the same way. If we don't have a mission, we don't have purpose in our life, then we basically dig holes. We self-sabotage and we dig holes in our own life. We become addicted to porn. We addicted to gambling. We're cheating on our spouses. We're, bad money management. We're not, focusing on our kids. We're doing all the things to self-sabotage our life because we are lacking purpose and mission. So essentially men are nothing more than a dog.
Right. No, I mean, we're creatures, man. We're part of nature. We like to think that we're separate, but we're not. We can't outsmart our evolution and our biology.
Right. But you can play to it. You can play to it to the most beneficial way. But that becomes like, now you're talking about growth, right? You're talking about understanding yourself and understanding what, taking a look at what you want in your life. How do you want your life to be? What is the return of investment that you want to get out of things? Okay, well, that means I have to be honest and I have to be communicative and I have to you're talking about, relationships and significant other, putting the work into being the physical thing is just as much as putting the work into your mental stuff in a relationship as well. And kind of owning your shit and being honest. That's what being a true man is about.
Yeah. Like your purpose, like kind of once you did your community service, you were searching kind of for something. Like you found that you couldn't go back the way that you were. Like
and so and once I went through that and I kind of I laugh. I say by the time I was 13, I'd quit drugs and alcohol and I had my life figured out because I had done all those things. But yeah, so from 13 on, it was really hyper focused on squaring my life away, making money and getting to that next level, whatever that next level was. And then which led me after that, like you said, after that community service, it led me to the job I was telling you about, moved out of my mom's house and got a place on the beach in Panama City Beach. So I was just living fat and awesome until I realized that was a limiting factor. I didn't want to be the same guy living in the same town 20 years later going, what have I done? So that's where that the next evolution, the next chapter of my life where I threw myself in.
When did you realize, as far as the military, you can kind of chat about that a little bit, but honestly, when did you realize that you were finished with the military? Like, was there a point that you realized I've kind of accomplished what I want to accomplish. Now I'm ready to start something new. And then going into the business, I'm really interested in your desire, to start a business, and what was your business about, and how did you go about, making it successful?
Well, that's very, very linear the way that you explained it, but that is definitely not the way that it happened.
Perfect.
I remember my last deployment. I was about to go on the most awesome deployment of my career, which it was. But I remember when it was time to leave, time to get on the bus to go catch a flight. So my whole team shows up. We get on a bus, we go to an airport, and we fly off to overseas after that. And I remember not being ready to leave. So every other deployment in my life, and out of 12 years of service, I was gone for 6. Okay. So out of 2000, from 2000 to 2012, I was physically gone, deployed for 6 years out of that time. And majority of that time was the last probably 8 years, really, because from, the first time I had one deployment to Turkey, that was like 7 months, and then the rest was all after that. So it was condensed. That 6 years was condensed in a pretty tight time. And I remember my girls had gotten a little older, and I didn't have that itching to go like I used to. Like when it was time to go on deployment before, I was like, bags are packed. Let's get the heck out the door. Let's go do the job, man. Because it's a football game, right? Like you practice all summer, the season starts, and now you're not ready to ride the bench. You're ready to get on the field and play the damn game. Well, that's like with us too. We train forever, and then it's time to play the game. You want to play the game for real. And I distinctly remember the feeling of like, I'm just not quite ready to leave my family yet. And that's when I knew, I said, this is coming. This needs to come to an end. Plus, I mean, with that job, every time you go, if you survive coming back and you try to go again, the odds of the percentages of you making it home are just a little bit less. You can only, play that game for so long before you get popped. And, so that last deployment really, really sealed the deal. Obviously, at my level in special operations, it was heavily political. We had gone from Bush to Obama, and I don't need to make this podcast political, but Obama made it very difficult for us to do our job. It made it very dangerous to do our job, and there was some stuff that happened with the State Department that came in that this really sealed the deal on me wanting to exit the military. And it wasn't because like I didn't still support it or believe in what I was doing. It had nothing to do with that. It was just the way that things were being handled at the time, really on top of, man, I was just tired. Been doing that job for so long that I was just really worn out, and I was turning into a very bitter person, very disgruntled and bitter human being. And, anybody that's in the military knows, when you get the guy that's been in 20 years, he's a master sergeant or master gunnery sergeant, and he's just that. You see him in movies too. They play him. Sam Elliott played one in what was the Mel Gibson movie? He was the sergeant major in that movie, and he said somebody walked past him and he goes, "Good morning, Sergeant Major," and his response was, "How the hell would you know?" So that's what happens when you stay in for so long. You just turn into this very bitter, disgruntled person. And I had become that, and it was becoming more of that. And I was like, this is not the human being that I want to be. So I after 12 years, I exited, and everybody was like, "You're crazy. You're nuts. You only have 8 more years and you can retire." And the reality is you don't really retire. You can't not truly live off what you get after a military retirement. You still have to get another job. But I looked at it, I was like, well, if I do that now, doing 8 more years is like doing another 8 years in a penitentiary. 1, 2, I would be 8 years. I would be that 8 years behind of what I wanted to do. So when I got out, I got a contracting job that lasted for just over a year. And that was one of the biggest impacts to my life was I got fired from that job.
How come?
I had a very strong opinion of the direction of which things I was like a lead. I was one of the senior guys on my team. And we were developing some programs and stuff for what we were doing, and everything was super successful. But I would bump heads with these like techie nerds that were technically over me, but they didn't really know what the job was. They were just tech people. But it was technically their company. And I was fresh out of the military. I still had that kind of hardened drive. You know what I mean? And if you were stupid, I would tell you were stupid. There's a lot less finesse than I have now. And I was like, I'm right because I'm right. That's it. So there's a lot less finesse. What really happened was we developed a program to train people. It was wildly successful in our area. So they fired me on Monday. I found out on Tuesday they took that program that me and my team created
Mm-hmm.
and rolled it out to the entire company worldwide.
Okay.
And I was like, oh. So and I had other job offers come up right after the fact, like well-paying jobs. And I said, you know what, if I can build something for someone else and they're going to take it and apply it to a company that's like valuated into the billions, then I can do it for myself. Not knowing that it would take, much longer than just, a year to be, to do whatever. Anyways, so that led me to starting my own company, which led me to a shit ton of failures and just me stumbling one after the other, figuring it out and growing. And my first business was just an absolute colossal disaster.
What was your first business?
It was a training consulting business. I was doing tactical training and security stuff. And
okay, so like just so I can clarify, so when you say training, you're talking about like using the skills you learned from the military and training people and that kind of stuff.
Like I could take you out on a range and teach you like CQB and how to shoot a gun and all that sort of stuff. And a little bit of home defense, some security, some personal some PSD work, some personal security for organizations and families and whatnot. And I had this grand plan, and I met with investors, and we did it. We traveled, me and my team, we traveled all over the United States and was teaching and doing this stuff, but I had a bigger plan, and it all fell through. And I have a million different what ifs, or I could have done something different. But if I wouldn't have gone down that road, if I wouldn't have had the balls to go down that road and fail, it would have not because that directly, every single one of those things directly led to me to where I am today. So if I was scared, I could have just got another job, but that would have led me to doing, out of the military, I got this job making $165,000 a year. Like, unless you get fired, more than likely you're not leaving that job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got healthcare, you've got benefits, and you're making 165 in your pocket every year. And that would have only continued to go up. Right. So it'd be very difficult for you to go, I think I'm going to take a pass and break off on my own, but when it fired me, that gave me the permission to go off on my own. I was like, well, I can either go back to work or I can build something for myself. And that led me to the next thing, which was a failure, which led me to the next thing, which probably was a failure as well. And then down the road, it just started to work. As I learned, as I gained more experience, things started to work, which led me here. So some people are like, oh man, this horrible thing happened to me. I was like, yeah, it feels that way right now. And I'm with you. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, I look at some of the worst things that ever happened in my life. And they were actually some of the most pivotal, best things that ever happened, because it gave me the opportunity to take a different path that I wouldn't have taken otherwise.
What's your process in the moment? Like when you are essentially like dealing with that initial failure, some people can get discouraged. They can say, well, I'm not doing this again. I'm going to go back and do what I feel is comfortable, what I feel is more secure.
There's your first key. As soon as you say like, well, this is more secure, this is more comfort, that's a lie.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as secure.
Yep.
Like how many stories do you need to hear about some guy getting screwed at a corporate job a year or 2 years before his retirement, and they shit can him.
It's an illusion.
Like our parents and our grandparents was talking about like, oh, you get a job, you go work for 20, 30 years, then you retire. Like, that's not a reality anymore. Those jobs, you're not secure. People always tell me, like, well, not anymore. They used to. They were like, Nick, why don't you just go get a real job? Stop faking around with whatever you're playing with. And like, they didn't know that it was a 7-figure business. I'm like, I can't get any more real of a job. I work more than you do. But
they don't have to think about it. Like, so if you run the business, you got to think about it. You know what's going on. Yeah. They could be canned at any moment and fired, but they don't have to think about it all the time. And so to them, it gives them this, it's almost like the ostrich putting its head in the sand. Right. It's like the problems are still around you. You just don't see them.
And I hear it all the time. I was just at a conference in California, and I just got back this week, but some guy who got on the microphone, he was talking about it was a leadership business conference. And he goes, I really am doing good on this side thing, but I was like, I'm having a hard time, and my wife's having a hard time, me losing the security of my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And I just like, and they answered the way that I would have answered. And I just laughed. I was in the corner laughing, going, the security of the 9 to 5 is like, hey, homie, that job is not secure. It's perceived security. They want you to think that it's secure, but as soon as you're not valuable, or they need to cut weight, you might be the first person. Here's your slip. You're out. And now what are you going to do?
Yeah. So what is your business now? Like, what are the businesses that you've put together, like, since these failures happened?
So the ones that I've built and sold, and but currently right now,
you can talk about the ones you built and sold, whichever ones. I'm more curious as a business owner too. I'm like, what'd you create?
So I had a knife company at one point.
Nice.
We sold we got access to this company. It wasn't doing very well. They kind of offloaded a problem on us, but I saw the opportunity, what we could do with it. So I acquired that business and then blew it up and made a bunch of money. And actually, once it got leveled out and was good, we sold it back to the original owner. He wanted it back. So we're like, okay, cool. High five. Here you go.
You helped them out. You basically saved their business for them. And then, there it is.
Yeah. And he wanted it back, and for us, it was never a long-term thing. It was like, hey, let's build this thing up. Let's make it profitable. Let's make a bunch of money from it and then sell it. And it just so happened to be that he was in a position now to where he could run the business. It had better infrastructure. It had a better profit margins. And so he took it from there. And then the other one was it was a fitness subscription box called Spartan Carton. And so we sold that. We built and sold that one. And then I had a shipping store that I sold during COVID.
Okay.
And there was a bunch of little bitty things like that. Some businesses I just shut down. Honestly, I was like, hey, I'm going to kill this darling, and it's not something that could be sold really. So there's been 3 businesses that I've just killed. Just said, okay, you're done. But the ones currently are Johnny Slicks. It's a organic grooming company for men, a truly organic. It's not all natural, because these companies that say that they have all natural products. Well, formaldehyde is all natural. Asbestos is all natural. So anyway,
sometimes you see all natural and some really random stuff. I was in the grocery store and there was like charcoal. It said all natural. It's like, it's fucking charcoal. Like,
it's all natural, bro.
So Johnny
I only
Slicks,
use the finest all natural.
Yeah,
charcoal.
all natural charcoal. Thank you.
It's like beard and beard oil, stuff like that.
I mean, we have 30 something products. We do have 2 beard products. We have a beard shampoo and a beard oil, but the rest is hair products, pomade, shampoos, conditioners, body washes that are completely organic, and they will get you laid. That's there it is right there. 100% of the time, every time.
100% of the time.
It works every time.
It works every time. We have 12. Last time I checked, we had 12 confirmed pregnancies from people using our products.
How did you hold on a second? What's the research? Let's talk about the research there.
That's the testimonial right there.
They're public, man. They're public. We've
great.
done it. We've done public reviews on them, but no kidding, man. They're like, hey, I bought your product. We were trying to have kids. I walked in wearing it. I was wearing the rugged scent. My wife immediately smelled me. Next thing I know, we're in the bedroom, and now we're pregnant.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
and that story has happened 12 times. And it's funny. He's like, dude, I don't know what. I got a message from Bedros Koulian. I don't know if you know that is.
He's like a business coach and business owner.
Yeah. He was actually my business coach, and he voice texted me when I sent him a big box of the Black Label, and he goes, listen, dude, I don't know if you're marketing this stuff this way, but I can't walk through the office about all the women in here just asking me what, and he's married and everything. He's like, I don't know if I can wear this in the office. This could create a problem for me. And my message to him before I got it, he goes, hey, do you want me to put this on your social media or throw this up and share it for you? And I said, listen, I don't want you to do anything. This is what I want you to do. I want you to wear it around Diana. I want you to put it on and wear it. And then once you get a response, then you do what you feel like you need to do with it. And it was funny because that's exactly what
It's a
happened.
great sales pitch, man.
I was like,
all right.
I was like, you don't have to share nothing. You don't have to do anything. Just wear it and let whatever happens, happens. And as sure enough, he's like, man, I don't know if you're putting pheromones in this.
I was going to say some pheromones.
It's really a trick. It's 100% Sex Panther.
That's right.
That's right. All our products, and that's it.
Oh,
that's great.
Yeah.
Except yours works 100% of the time.
100% of the time, every time. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah. What else? What else are you doing?
So we do fitness. We, talking about the men thing that we were talking about, men being overweight, unhealthy, their routine, their priorities being completely jacked up. Letting their life run them versus them running their life. So we have a program called the Agogi that we basically take men and put them back in the driver's seat. So we work with them on their nutrition, we work with them on their fitness, we work with them on their routine, making them the people that they're supposed to be. And so we do that. I have a line of coaches that we have built over the years. And so we sell, fitness products and things like that. And we do a 30-day challenge. We do it every other month. We do a 30-day challenge where they get kind of a taste of that. And we put them in this group environment. And man, it's nuts, man. We've literally for $99. It's amazing. We have literally taken men's lives and saved their marriages, saved their life, made them better fathers. I mean, we're talking about 20 pounds in 30 days. And then, we force them to are you dating your wife? Are you doing the things you're supposed to be doing? Are you putting, because for men, at the end of the day, nobody wants to talk about this, but at the end of the day, for a man, there's no days off. You don't get to not be a man for a day. You don't get to check out, especially if you're a husband or a father or anything like that. There's no days off. You don't get to chill. It's always, somebody always needs something from you, whether it's your time, your energy, your love, or your work. But that's it. There's no days off, man. But it's so rewarding when you get it right. When you do it the right way, it's so absolutely rewarding. And so that's what we do with the Agogi is we make men again. And then and on top of that, then I have my mentorship, my personal mentorship and business coaching as well that I do outside of that.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. You're busy. You're a busy guy.
I'm a busy guy. I love every bit of it. And of course, one of my favorite things, the Always Forward podcast, which if you guys have a podcast, it's I don't know, these long form conversations, I just learn so much from my guest, and being able to share and have these conversations, I think is truly life altering for people.
Yeah. I think you really get to figure out what makes someone tick, what makes them unique, why you get at least a taste of something that they're doing, and maybe you can implement. Like Chew and I always talk about, if we listen to a podcast or we have a podcast, if there's one piece you can take away, right, and implement it into your life, one perspective, one piece of information, that's a win, right? That's your time well spent.
Yep. That's exactly it. And I think that what you were saying, Chew, was about, there seems to be this trend of fathers and men being back in the house. I think a big portion of that is these type of conversations, right? I think a large portion of that swing is there's so many of us having that conversation and talking about why it's important and talking about how to do it.
Sure.
Otherwise, I don't think it would be happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm reading. It's Up From Slavery. It's a Booker T. Washington. I guess you would consider a memoir or / autobiography, and in it he's talking about that. One of the most powerful educations that he ever got was just being around really good people, intelligent people, great people, stuff like that. And I remember hearing that, and I think that's always true because if you get a chance to spend some time around someone, when I was younger, I would have I had mentors that for whatever reason took a liking to me. And just being able to be around them and see how they do things and the person that they are was just rubs off on you. And then now we have this beautiful thing where with the internet and podcasts and videos and everything else, you get a chance to if you want to be mentored by someone from afar, you maybe don't know that person, when there's programs where you can obviously be mentored directly. But even if not directly, when you have a conversation or where you're listening to a long form podcast or whatever, you're listening to people share ideas, and essentially you get to hang out with them and let a little bit of them rub off on you, so to speak. And so I think that's powerful. I think the idea of like understanding like how do other people do it that have been successful, whatever, what kind of behaviors did they do? What kind of people are they? And then sort of figuring out like what part of those do you want to try on for yourself and implement into your own life?
Yeah, that's actually great, man. I never really, I mean, obviously I think about it because I shared all information, but you're right. And you can surround that energy and that information with you. And we have a saying that, you know, your network is your net worth.
Mm.
You know, if you're hanging around loser friends, you're going to be a loser. If you're hanging around a bunch of millionaires, guess what you're going to be? A future millionaire. But I liked what you said there, because who you allow into your brain, who you're listening to, the type of media that you're consuming is going to be what you're fueling yourself. So if you're fueling yourself on these types of podcasts, well, then what do you think the result is going to be for you? A better human being.
Yeah, that's great. Nick, if people want to get a hold of you, see what your business is all about, or just follow you on social media, where can they do that?
My name, Nick Koumalatsos. You have to type. I think I'm shadow banned. Like I went to this conference. They were like, "Hey, can I follow you?" I was like, "Absolutely." So you type my full name in, and the catfish accounts pulled up before me. Thank you, Instagram.
You must have been sharing some slightly conservative stuff on there, and they don't like that.
Yeah, they don't like that. Anyways, you type my name, you put more, search all or something. You have to scroll down, and then I'm on there.
And then that's the YouTube channel, right?
That's the best place. Either that or Nick Koumalatsos on YouTube, and then we have the Always Forward podcast as well.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, well, I'll put all that down in the description for the episode, so people can definitely click on that and get a hold of you that way.
I'm pretty actually, you know, as busy as I am, I actually am pretty reachable, either through, you know, direct messages or through text. So I have a text app as well that people can, you know, if you're more serious and want actual questions asked, I actually enjoy helping people. It's kind of it's the mission of my life now.
Yeah.
Nice, dude.
It's great, man.
Well, bro, appreciate you being on the podcast. It was an awesome conversation. Good to get to know you. And yeah, man, appreciate it.
It's an honor, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, guys. So that is the end of the podcast. Hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully you guys got something from it. I know that it's not a strictly jiu-jitsu thing that we talked about there. You know, one of the things that he said that when he was talking about his experiences, and something I've understood as well, and it's something that I think is just kind of universal. There's a quote, and I couldn't find it, and I'm going to butcher it. It's saved. It's on my wall at home, but even then, I can't remember all the quotes all the time. I don't have that ability. But there's a quote from Emerson where basically in one of his essays, he talks about the fact that, and he said this very eloquently, but he basically talks about the fact that we often, a man or man or woman is lamed by the thing that's most successful in their life. And the thing that they thought was the worst thing, the biggest mistake, the biggest obstacle to them, in turn makes them far stronger, far greater than they expected. And so basically on the other end of that, right? If you overcome the obstacle on the other side of that. And so basically, as an example, with Nick in that situation, he was making money. It made him soft and complacent, right? If he would have stayed there, it would have lamed him. It would have basically been like, okay, this is easy, and you get too comfortable, you get stuck, right? But he's like, no, I got to do something different, right? In jiu-jitsu, we deal with this where we have situations where, like, if you get too dependent upon one technique, right, it lames you because you get stuck with that one technique and you don't grow like you should. You don't round your game out. This was a big problem for me earlier on, right? And so I think that this is a thing where, but then if you think about it this way, then you go do something different, and it's going to be an obstacle. It's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. You're going to fail. It's just normal. But on the other end of that is the stuff that, you know, is becoming a stronger, better person, a more successful person, a better grappler, whatever it might be. But I think it's kind of a universal principle, because anything I look at is kind of the same way. I have these periods where sometimes I get a little complacent. And so in order to get uncomplacent, I need to throw myself into something that's different, that shakes me up a little bit and then gets me out of it. Like, I'll sometimes do crazy things and schedule stuff that I have no idea how it's even going to work. I remember like last year we did the jiu-jitsu camp
Yeah.
at the gym. I just put it up. I was like, I just got to the house and like I was kind of feeling comfortable a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't like that. So I was like, let's do something I haven't done before. Jiu-jitsu camp. Been wanting to do one of those for a couple years. Boom, done. And then Jess, like, she gets the email. She's like, what are we going to do? I was like, I don't know yet. I'm just going to figure it out. I'm just going to see if anybody's interested. Sold out in like a 24-hour period. I was like, well,
Figure that
gonna
out.
figure this out. And of course we did. We figured it out. We had a great time. And then this year the camp sold out. The first one sold out in a couple hours. And it's almost all people that were coming back from last year. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Right? So it's
and then
cool.
the second one, is it all sold out or you got like
We've
maybe...
got, so if anybody's interested, so we've got another one coming up. It's in September 9th through 11th. We've got, I think, 4 spots right now.
Out of how many?
So I'm keeping the people, because obviously my students are going to be at these camps as well, but the spots open to visitors is going to be limited to 20. And so, and the reason being is I don't want to have a huge group, because I'd like to kind of talk with you, get to know you.
Yeah, you connect with people.
Yeah,
That
like
makes it unique.
Yeah, like at the last camp, like by the end of it, I knew everybody's name.
Yeah.
You know, and so I like that. I don't want to have people come in and like you're just a random number amongst this huge crowd.
That speaks volumes. Like people, like you sold it out and then like it's sold out again, and like literally like pretty much everybody wanted to come back that was there.
Well, that speaks volumes to the whole gym.
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
because it wasn't just me. Like they came in and they got to train with people, and I know that several people got tips from other people, and you know, like I remember the guys were speaking really highly of the stuff that you had them do with like the functional stretching stuff.
That's awesome.
And so everybody enjoyed it, and so it was a great time. And so that said, guys, if you want to join me September 9th through 11th, 2022, get on my website, send me an email. There's different ways to get to it, but you know. Get in touch with me. We can
3 spots left.
Let you know.
It's gonna probably be gone soon. Four spots left.
Yeah.
So
And guys, with that said, thank you guys for being here. Big thanks to our sponsors, Charlotte's Web. They make amazing CBD products, and they are third-party tested to make sure that what's in that bottle or what's in that tub that you get is actually what's in there, rather than, you know, again, it's an unregulated market, and some guy's selling you some bathtub CBD over the counter at a friggin' gas station. You have no clue what's in that stuff. And so again, be smart with yourself. If you're going to put supplements into your body, be intelligent with them and get a good quality product. And again, there are some good quality CBD products out there. Charlotte Web is just one of them, and it's the one that we have as a sponsor. So if you want to check them out, you can go to their website at charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to Matt at Epic Roll for supporting the podcast. He's been a longtime supporter, and he makes really cool jiu-jitsu stuff. So if you want gear, T-shirts, no-gi gear, rash guards, any of it, he makes everything and all with cool designs and high-quality products at epicrollbjj.com. So if you are looking for some more jiu-jitsu gear, and you're getting that itch because you want to get something new. I mean, for me, like here's the thing too. If any of you guys are out there and you're kind of like, oh man, I'm kind of getting like burned out on training or whatever, go buy something new. I don't know what it is. It's like whether it's like a new piece of equipment in the gym or a new gi, a new rash guard. Anytime I get something new, I just can't wait to break it in. It's like, and this hasn't changed even now as a black belt. Like when I got the rash guards and shorts that Matt made for me, I was so excited. I was like, oh, I can't wait. It was like on a Tuesday too. I was like, shit, it's a Tuesday. It's a gi day. I want it to be the no gi day because I want to wear this stuff. So again, you can check his stuff out at epicrollbjj.com and use promo code Jiu-Jitsu for 15% off. Took me a second there to get that one out. And also, guys, if you are a man or you have a man in your life that could use some grooming products, check out Manscaped. They are the premier men's grooming product company. And again, they make amazing products. They've been a sponsor with us for a couple of years. And again, they were Chewy and Eugene tested and approved before they ever became a sponsor. I like the company and I like the stuff that they make. So if you want to check them out, go to manscaped.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. And that comes with free shipping as well. It's a good deal on some good products. And guys, if you want to support the podcast directly and get access to some exclusive content, you can do so by going to patreon.com/the-jiu-jitsu-podcast. And also, with that said, just letting you guys know, we will be discontinuing the Patreon in the near future, sometime this year. And for those of you that were a part of my Vault membership that was going on in 2020, not the business Vault, that's different, but just the regular one for jiu-jitsu practitioners, we're going to be discontinuing the Patreon and moving to something similar to that. A little bit different. I have some different ideas, but similar to it. And again, all Patreon subscribers, you will get access or get a discount to it. So this way it won't be that much of a difference to you. And so again, just as a thank you for appreciation for supporting the Patreon. But in the meantime, you can get access to all the content that we have there. And if you would like to do so, you can go to that website that I just mentioned. And later on this year, we'll give you a discount code for the next step, the next thing that we're going to be doing with that. More details to come on that. Guys, and if you would like to get my email newsletter that I send daily, you can go to jujitsu.net/join. And you can get access to it. Again, I send a daily email newsletter, usually Monday through Friday, sometimes the weekend. And again, I'll give you 3 free ebooks for joining. One is on developing your game plan. One is on how to drill and add some focus to your game. One is on studying and things that you can do at home for your training. All 3 will come to you with your subscription. You can cancel at any time if you don't like the emails, and keep the books for yourself. So that's that. So guys, thank you so much for being here, and appreciate you guys as always. We'll talk to you next week.